All right, Gavin Bain back with another episode of Music Hacker. I'm here with Nick.
Gregorio.
I feel like you're almost unconfident by the end of the surname.
Gregorio. It's actually, it's annoyingly hard to...
Is that your artist name as well?
Yeah, which is...
God, you want to make things complicated.
I always thought about changing my name, but then...
Like Nick Digga, and then whatever.
Nicky D. But then I'm not... It sounds like an MC's name.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm not too sure.
Wow, so what is the kind of stuff, because this is you're another part of the Myth crew.
Yeah.
So I only really know Melinda, but she said it's a really good group of people who are like kind of a little bit more woke to the music biz. And you guys talk a lot about strategies and ideas. So I'm kind of like just trying to get to the bottom of where each of you are at. So then we can maybe like formulate something or answer anything big, or like get to like a kind of the bottom of something that might be in your head about the music industry. So you're a musician, so you're a singer-songwriter, or you're a producer, or?
Yeah, so I would class myself at the moment more as a working musician. So I am a singer-songwriter.
Yep.
I write music. I started as a classical musician, jazz musician.
Wow, okay. It's a good place to have a bass in.
Yeah, and like I come from Melbourne, Australia.
Right.
And I primarily was like a guitarist, and then after university studying jazz, I went.
Oh, you studied jazz?
Yeah, I studied jazz.
So you got like you're like a for reals
like
musician.
I'm very trained like pretty heavily trained.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could be a good and bad thing.
Can be a good and bad thing. It definitely like gives perspective into different worlds, I think.
I had a violinist in one of the projects we worked on. One of the most phenomenal writers and players of an instrument, because he'd been playing since he was 2 or 3 years old.
Yeah, definitely.
But so much stuff had to be reformatted in his brain about stuff, you know, like
like industry stuff, or like
no, just like so fan stuff, how to be around fans because he's from the classical world, or kind of just understanding certain things in marketing and how you do things in music, you know, like very different to being like a big performer. You know, in a kind of in classical world, but you were a guitarist, and then
so it's I probably come from a similar world, like back in the day. So I and they are different worlds. They are like, you've got, even the jazz world is a different world altogether, and like it's kind of like really artistic music. And obviously when you start talking about more contemporary music, singer-songwriter, industry stuff, we're talking about like managers and all this stuff. It's just a different
ball game for sure. And did you find Melbourne fascinated about all the different places?
For sure.
I've played everywhere, but I know specifically what the biz is like, and I think the biz is kind of like the same everywhere, right?
Yeah.
But I think I specifically know London and the States.
For sure.
So did you come here try to get away from maybe a scene, or you didn't like the industry there, or what was the reason to come here? Did you just move here?
A bit of everything, really. So I after my university, I actually studied in Perth for 3 years at a jazz course, and then I did cruise ships. So I jumped in and did that stuff, and then I did that for 2 years.
Good experience.
Yeah, really good experience, and opened me up to what a like working musician life is really like
super valuable stuff, because like you're not going to know, like you can't really become a good writer until you've actually seen how people are reacting to even covers, and
100%.
You know what I mean? Like you really get a good sense of like what people are kind of vibing to, you know, especially as the time goes, you know, if you do a lot of those types of stuff, you kind of but so then you went from you were doing cruise ships. Were you doing cover stuff, or were you doing original stuff?
Definitely cover stuff. Like, it's not a place for...
Not really a place for originals.
People can request them at some point.
You get those dead looks.
Yeah.
You start playing your own song after playing like a fireworks or whatever the song is, Katy Perry song.
Katy Perry,
and then you drop like, this one I wrote. And it's like, what? No. Unless yours is exactly like hers, no.
Yeah.
And it's called Fire Stump. No.
Fire
all right? No, it's a remix.
Yeah, that's it.
So it wasn't really to get away from the industry, but you took this kind of journey then.
Yeah, it's been quite and like I learned to sing on a cruise ship. So like that was a big learning thing. And then I started being a soloist. And as you said, like learning covers, building repertoire. I think it's really valuable for like learning how to write in different styles, but especially with pop music and all that kind of stuff in that bag, you start to learn everything that people are doing just from experience and and how it connects with people. And so then I jumped off a cruise ship and I came to London. My mum's British, I have a passport.
Cool.
So I was like, the best
Convenient.
place. Very useful. Very
useful.
Yeah, and basically was fortunate to jump off a ship, come here, and I found work pretty quickly. And just started gigging straight away.
And so did you get any, because I know there's a bunch of you, like you all have different experience and different successes in the biz, but like did you get anything crack off? Like did anything kind of happen? Like what was your experience of the London music industry?
My experience so far has been...
When was that, by the way, that you landed in London?
Nearly 3 years. It would be 3 years.
Oh, so we're talking about modern day music biz.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Very, like, yeah.
That's very different to even like 6-7 years ago.
Sure.
Different days. So yeah, we're that set says we're in the modern realm of music. We're in the now. Okay.
It's an interesting place. I think London's one of those places that you can just live here and potentially never crack any of the smaller bubbles that are inside the industry. Like, but what's amazing also is that you can live as a musician pretty easily here, like work-wise and
there's opportunities. You know, you could. I mean, anywhere in the world you can do. You can write for shows. You can do all that stuff. I mean, I always think those become a question of what type of musician do you want to be? Do you want to be a working musician, or do you want to be like, I want to have a pop career, or I want to have a career where I'm out there. I'm Johnny Big Balls and I'm headlining. Do you know what I mean? Because those are different worlds. Like there's easy careers for if you want to write and sell songs to people.
Yeah.
That's a very different career to I want to be someone's marquee act on a big management label, and then I want to get a deal. You know, for me, like, wow, that's like, okay, now you're talking about like semi-delusion, unless you fall into like one of the three categories.
Yeah.
Then there's three categories that basically, if you're outside of them, doesn't really take off. It doesn't really happen. We can go into the three categories.
Yeah, I'd love to.
But just to clarify, that what kind of what you wanted from your career, was it that you wanted to either kind of tour, headline, have a record out, be doing really well, or you wanted to write for others? And what
was the
I mean, obviously both are great, but like what was the priority?
I think the priority for me now is going down more of a writing route, and writing. I like to write for myself, but I also can write to briefs, and I can write to that kind of stuff. And at the moment, I'm really pushing my learning about my production skills and like building those kind of areas of writing. But also, I'm like more of a live performer, and that's what I've been doing my whole life. And is essentially my goal now is to flip over from being a working musician that plays covers in places and that kind of role, to being a creative musician that writes for people, plays their own music. And I was wondering if they're the different categories that you were speaking of before, like the three categories.
So when I talk about those three categories, those are more about if someone wants to make it as like a hit artist, or like make it in the biz, or get signed. Because getting signed is such a weird thing. I mean, when you've been signed and you've been through the whole kind of system, and you see behind the curtains, it's kind of like you wish you were never signed. It's really not that great unless you have a wealth of work, and you own your catalogs, and you've got loads of records, and you actually you've been doing it for so long that you've got the audience, and they need you don't need them. If you can go to a label and you don't need them, then that's when they want you. If you need them, then you're going to get fucked. And so what it then comes down to, the only reason they'll come to you is, and this isn't one of the categories. So like I just said, if you've got hundreds of thousands of subscribers and you're killing the gang online, you know, and you're doing it. You're showing that you're just popping, you know.
That's it. You're
just working. You're doing it, you know. Putting something up every day. You're doing something. You're killing it on the social medias. Your Facebook marketing or whatever. You got it all locked down, right? And there's very specific ways to do that, which we kind of went into with Melinda there. But that's not one of the categories. Labels will sign you if you are any one of these three things. So you are sex, as in you're fuckable, you're a hot girl, or you're a young guy. So boy bands, boy girls. Although boy bands, boy girls, how many other left? So that's a dying thing because records don't sell anymore. Kids for sure are the most downloaded. You know, they download, they don't buy at all. So really, it's only reason that boy bands and girl bands are even relevant in any way is social media. They do get bumps on social media. But so you're fuckable, and then the other one is that you're crazy. So you're just extremely remarkable, as in remark-worthy. So you're kind of the Libertines lead singer, you're Carl Barat, or you know you're one of those guys, or you're just crazy. You're Bjork. You're something's fucking
super eccentric.
You're pulling someone's hair off a plane. You know, like you're constantly like just a messed up person. Like you're Amy Winehouse. You're relapsing. You're having all these things happen. Then you're dead. You know, so that category there, you're crazy. So you're sexy, you're crazy, or you're the purple cow. And so the purple cow is the third category, and that's where you're Ed Sheeran.
For sure.
So the purple cow category is normally the category where talented people are, really talented. Not saying that the other two aren't. They of course are.
Yeah, but they do have like a shtick.
They're not signed for their talent. They're signed because they're semi-talented and people want to fuck them and people want to talk about them. Sure. You know, and those two characters can mash together quite well and to cause chaos. And you'll normally see a good press agent or a good agent. You know, I say good. You know, I hate them, but like this is if they're good at their job, you easily see that they'll just put people from those two categories together because it'll sell. It'll get really big bumps on social media.
For sure.
So the third category is the purple cows. So, and that's a marketing term. Seth Godin came up with that, and it's basically like it's the thing that jumps off a shelf at you if you're walking through a store and you're looking at toothpaste. Now, if you think toothpaste, you think Colgate, right? Like, or Aquafresh. You know, like there's only really two. Right?
Yeah, definitely. Colgate.
So there's only two, and they have a very clear branding: red, white, blue. Right? Now, a purple cow would be if someone made a purple one, or like a big yellowy, flashy one. Now, people probably wouldn't want to use that to clean their teeth, but if it did do the job, the same exact job, why wouldn't you give it a try? Because it jumps off the you know, so the purple cows will jump off a shelf at you, and then if it's good, you'll keep using it, and then they win. So Ed Sheeran, he's not good looking. He's chubby. You know, not in a million. He's ginger. You know, not in a million years are you saying this guy's going to become a sex symbol. So, but he's talented. And he does his thing. And he ends up being the purple cow because what has he got? Sympathy and empathy. And those are one of the biggest things in storytelling. So he is the hero of his movie. You know? And he just gets over the fact that he's feeling awkward and he, you know, and he just does it. And his awkwardness and all this and his kind of, you know, like it makes him. And it really is the thing that you're like, have you seen that ugly ginger guy who kind of does these rappy things on YouTube? Nope, I'm going to watch that now.
Hell yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So Purple Cow, he sells himself. He's just got it. You know, so these three categories have it. Now, you wouldn't think, if you saw him, you wouldn't think he's got it. But if he's got the talent and he figures out that the bad things about him are actually the good things if he uses them. Another one is Susan Boyle. Now, Susan Boyle definitely doesn't fall into that first category.
Sure. It's like,
she's not crazy. She might look a little Down syndrome, but but she's not crazy. but she's just got a hella talent, and then she's got this incredible story that she didn't perform for all these years, and then she gets seen in a talent show, and she actually doesn't really want fame or anything. She's not pretty, again, she's quite ugly, but she's got the talent, and then she's got the shows there as well. I mean, take the show out, she probably doesn't get into the category because probably no one sees her. Do you know what I mean? But then now she's got seen, she's in the category. So, and the hard thing for people to understand is that you can get into these categories. I mean, you can get buff and get into the sex category. You can just act crazy and get in number 2, and you can make yourself the purple cow by simply just being vulnerable and showing that the bad things about you are actually your good things if you show people, if you show the world. So those are basically the 3 categories. And if a label will not approach an artist, if a label approaches a person and they have no subscribers, I guarantee you they're hot, and they're quite clearly going to sell sex. You know, like, I'm not saying Dua Lipa isn't a great singer. I think she is a great singer, but who's signing people on just a voice? Do you know what I mean? Like, she looks gorgeous. She's like a supermodel look, you know, she's an easy sell. 2 years, 3 years time, will she be around? Most likely not, unless she becomes another one of the categories.
But
maybe she has a car crash and loses her looks. And
she's producing this stuff as well, isn't she?
Yeah, I mean, and that's again, she falls into the, you know, she's got talent, so that's her way to kind of be around a little longer. You know? But if you're just sexy, and by the way, it's not like a sexist thing. She can turn around and go, I'm not fucking anyone from the biz, or nah, I'm not I'm not into that type of thing. She can become her, so it's not like a bad thing. I'm just saying that the labels won't go anywhere near it. If Dua Lipa isn't like gorgeous as she is, they're not touching her. Do you know what I mean? And maybe she's just a producer then for other people. And do you know what I mean? So you can become crazy. You can act like nuts and just tweet. You know, if you do 10 crazy things in a month and you're releasing a record at the end and you're tweeting it, you know what I mean? And then the purple cow thing is this, just you know they'll approach purple cows like when Ed Sheeran broke. This is another crazy thing that happens to labels, that they're all looking for one of those 3 categories. But when Ed Sheeran broke, they don't jump. When Dua Lipa breaks, they still keep looking for a sexy girl. When libertines, you know, punk rock bands or anyone in the crazy category, they still all keep looking for the next crazy thing. But when Ed Sheeran breaks, they don't keep looking for Ed Sheeran, because the purple cow category is one-offs.
It's a unique.
Yeah,
for sure.
So that's the only problem with the purple cow. So that's when people are watching it go like, oh, I think I'm a purple cow. Like, I got orange hair. Chubby is like, no. You can't have someone else's purple cow factor. Do you know what I mean?
Would you say that the purple cow factor is one of the things that people come knocking once they've established themselves?
Absolutely.
So like the Ed Sheerans of the world, who worked his ass off to get to a certain fan base without.
They're not seeing Ed Sheeran with a couple of videos up that've got no big hits and coming and going, hey man, like, we really like that you're chubby and freckly and orange hair, like, sign to us. They're coming when he's like showing he's a powerhouse and he's not stopping, and he's just, and people are saying in their offices, they don't pick, like I've said a couple times to a lot of artists, like people want to call labels and they want to call agents and stuff. They, you know, never do that shit. Like, they do not they can't listen. It's illegal to listen to anyone's demo unsolicited. So you can't, unless you have a lawyer and a manager, you can't legally send anything to someone. It's illegal. So unsolicited stuff can't be listened to. So you can't cold send or call people in that way. A friend or a manager or someone has to get it to the right places. What was I going to say? The only way that they are having a look at Ed Sheeran is if in their office a couple of them are going, oh, did you see that? Like, cute, I feel so sorry for that guy. We should sign that motherfucker. Do you know what I mean? Because if a few people, like, if anyone's, and I've had these, I've got friends who are A&Rs in A&R offices, and we talk a lot. Then, you know, so when they're looking at someone, they'll be like, do you want to come to a gig? And they would want to get my, you know, or they'll say, because I don't dislike A&Rs. I think they're also in a troublesome spot. You know, they've got hella job. They're like their job positions constantly under fire. They only last 6 months, you know, at a time.
Brutal.
So it's a horrible job, you know. But they can't move, and it's also super cutthroat. You wouldn't want to be friends with another A&R in the same office.
Oh, really?
Because you're constantly cutting each other off. You're constantly like going for the same things. Because everyone's searching for that bonus and trying to actually go through the company. No one wants to stay a junior. So no one's moving on anything unless someone's going. They open their door, or you put the phone down and like, anyone here? Blah blah blah. They say the name, and everyone goes, "Oh fuck yeah!" Or like, "Oh, did you do this? Or did that person do this? Oh, that person that did this."
Yeah.
Then you put the name down. Yep, I'm submitting him, and then they got to submit that artist in the A&R meeting. Now, if then that meeting, if that artist comes up on 4 people's list, that person's going to be the one that gets signed. So when people are saying, "Yeah, I want to call," it's like until you've created a bomb on social media, until you've done something, until you've created that like hand grenade,
for sure,
do not contact them, because when you do contact them, if you keep contacting them, and they just kind of think, this person, who the fuck,
it's like the old guy that keeps coming to the same open mic.
You do yourself real harm in that way. If you want to go with labels, I think the coolest people, and this is all from the kind of like touring and being that avenue, the coolest people, and all my friends that I've got who are A&Rs, they want to go to parties and have people who are not A&Rs tell them, like, "Oh, check this band out the other day," or like they don't want bands who are looking for deals.
Yeah.
People don't want, like, they want to get artists who are too cool for deals, because they're just out there, and they don't want to, because if you're looking, if I'm not an A&R and I'm looking to sign an artist who and this person wants a deal, I'm thinking as soon as I give him that deal, he's going to sit down and do nothing.
Yeah.
He's not going to go and work. The ethic's not there. They're not putting out stuff. They've no track record,
Yeah.
And it's the same with publishing as well for songwriting. Like if I'm maybe like an MD of a publishing house. I've got a couple friends that just immediately sprung to mind. We've had these conversations where it's like all the big ones, all the ones who are really killing it, like they all know, because they are at most of the parties, and they are socializing, they are in the circles, and they are working, like they're putting crazy work in, and it's not just one thing. It's like they will socialize, and they will go to the right things. They will get in. I'm not saying that they're sucking up. It's kind of a little bit different for bands and performers to songwriters,
Yeah.
But when a songwriter just and when I say parties, I'm not talking about specifically like record industry parties, more like actual parties with other great artists.
For sure.
Finding the right artists. I think if a songwriter knows someone who might fall into the 3 categories and can write better songs than they can, I think contact the songwriter and say, look, I would, and I think this is always something that people don't do a lot, but it's happened so many times, and it works. It genuinely works. If you love someone like Adele, right, and it's good to have a friend of a friend who knows Adele, but if you've written like 10 songs that are in Adele's style, and they have something that she hasn't done yet, it's kind of like the mechanics behind songwriting. Like, don't go to like Adele with songs that all sound like the same.
Like Adele songs,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but something that might be something she's not tried yet, but you might think that would kill her. Her voice would kill on that.
Yeah.
Then you can go to Adele, and it's not illegal for Adele to listen to the song, or Adele's kind of friend. It's not illegal there, or Adele's other producer, or Adele's kind of executive producer.
Yeah.
And those are the people, when you find them, it's their job.
Yeah.
It's their job to get songs.
So they've got their ears open for that.
Yeah, and that's when you start thinking about the industries like that, like when you go to LA or when you come to London, and even like New Zealand and Australia, there's key producers and there's key executive producers. Now the executive producers, I would always think as a songwriter, and I produce, and I'm a songwriter, but production is my game, so beat making is my game. So I don't want to go, and I've done it quite a few times, where I've got tracks with a big, like Jaron Benton, or someone like a big rappers or someone, right? I'm not going to Jaron Benton and saying, "Hey bro, like, you want to jump on this track?" Like, no, like I have to go through a contact that knows them, or like someone who's like, oh, do you know what I mean? Like, if something will happen where like a contact will happen, or we'll be in the same circle of another rapper, and then boom, someone pops up who executively produced his last record or something, and I didn't actually go through this route, but that would be the route you would take. But it would normally, when you start talking in those circles, someone jumps out and goes, your style would work for Jaron, you know, or your style will work for this guy. Like, why don't you submit me a few of them for, you know, yeah, fuck it, I'll throw them his way. Where, do you know what I mean? It's so much
like
easier.
It's like more about community.
Yeah, where if someone in your crew, or someone in your team, or someone around you can come up and be like, oh, like, this person gave me 10 songs, you know, like, and that's the whole thing as well. People are really cautious about, and they don't have to be 10 finished songs, obviously. You know, a song is, you can hear when a good chord structure is there, right? So you take like just really bare bones of you know, but with a little bit of stuff in it, you know, a little bit of production value, but taking something that they can actually listen through and go, man, I really liked 4 or 5, or like number 6 or whatever, you know. Then at least, even if they say no to all of them, I want another CD from that person. Because those 10 might have been 10 killers for Katy Perry, or 10 killers for someone else, but they just weren't her, and you tried something risque. I would always say, if you're a songwriter, I think songwriting is about constantly trying risque things, about constantly breaking the structures, because it's all structure based, right? You kind of get into the structures, you know, you have certain amount of seconds. And this is an interesting thing to talk about, actually, with someone who's really key in songwriting, is that those key structures maybe don't really exist that much anymore. They're starting to not.
They're really, it's I find it really, really interesting nowadays listening. Like, there's so many tunes that are breaking the conventions, and it's amazing to, one, watch them blow up, and then it's interesting if say you have a track that's produced and it's one chord progression through the whole track. What I'm finding even more interesting is when people take those songs that are like really heavily produced, and obviously for 3 or 4 minutes you can get away with that because you have all these interesting noises, all these interesting sounds, layering and all that stuff. What I find really interesting is when people do covers of them, and then they'll say, I love this rendition of it, and that song may not necessarily stand out if you didn't have the production at the beginning. Like, so I'm thinking it's this weird shift where you can watch those kind of, like, it's just like the opposite way that songwriting did work traditionally. Especially
because production's starting to become, like, I mean, it's been super important, but it's starting to become a kind of forefront thing now.
Definitely.
I mean, I think when someone comes to mind, obviously Pharrell and Neptunes, when they came through and they started doing some of those productions, and they started working with Britney and stuff, and they were always like dudes who were just throwing shit up, and knowing it was shit, and then pitching it to people with a style of like, but we're breaking the conventions, and then everyone wanted to work with them, and then they start then they'll make like a pop song with their style key signature sound, right? So I'll make like Slave or whatever, but most of the time it's like kind of they're fucking around, right? They're trying to see, but they want to become pop producers. They clearly did, but they were, and it's really strange when you look at Pharrell's stuff. Like, he started off breaking the structures, right? Trying to buck the trends, and now he kind of makes like to be lucky, you know. Now he kind of just makes straight up pop. I feel like he's kind of been constantly going more and more straight down the line pop, when the world's starting to go more and more like, you know, hip hop influenced with bizarre sounds, super slowed sounds, you know, deep bass sense, you know, whereas he's kind of going the opposite way, like becoming more and more and more and more pop. I mean, it's cool because he's got a big name, but I would say like I think it's good to look at his career from the start and see what he got right, and as soon as some people get really big, they stop looking at what they're doing, because they're in the machine.
For sure.
Which tells you as well with the last Eminem record, it's so popular compared to what he was all about, you know.
The originals,
and it's and you can see, like, once they get past a certain year or a certain career, how many records sold, you can't look at their music anymore as in for inspiration anymore. You know,
it becomes. I wonder if it just becomes a different beast. I wonder what pressures are on.
Oh, huge! Yeah.
Like, because obviously, like Eminem, was it Recovery? Was that the one? Was that the one, most recent one? I don't know.
Oh, this new one.
Yeah, what's the new
Recovery? It was. Oh God, I can't remember the name of it.
But it's got like Ed Sheeran on it. It's got a lot of.
It's mostly features. It's just it's crazy. But it's like there's one or two songs which are kind of signature dark, and whereas like there used to be way more, and it's very pop, it's very structured, it's like his shortest amount of verse space that he's ever used. You know, he's
really?
like quickly getting to the choruses. It's like, but you're a rapper.
Yeah,
you got to do what we want to hear you do. You know, and so that's an interesting thing. But I think that's definitely a key thing to watch, is the kind of, for people who are trying to make it as songwriters and producers. I think it's amazing if you're a songwriter that if you're not a good producer, that you hook up with a producer like very quickly.
I think nowadays it's really important, and I think that's in the past probably 6 months to a year has become a big realization for me as a songwriter who traditionally is like played real instruments in a room with a bass player, a drummer. And then learning, being like, okay, well, that's really great, but if you can't record your stuff well, and people aren't, I feel like you need to show people, you really need to spoon feed them what you want them to hear. Otherwise, they're not going to, like, if you or I listen to a track and we're like, this has potential, this is great. But if you potentially show someone else, then they're like, I don't understand, there's no like heavy beat, like these sound a bit funny, but you're like, no, don't like see past that. It's kind of, I think we're getting to a place where we actually need to show a really good demo as well.
I mean, exactly. As a producer, when I don't even start writing the song lyrics or writing a hook for someone or my own records, like I have to have the catchiness there. Like first 4 seconds, I've got to be like, oh, I love that sound. Or, you know, it's got to be something
that brings you in.
Yeah, I mean, essentially music is it's got a lot to do with marketing, and if you don't, I mean, you have to be looking for these cool sounds and looking for these riffs as a guitarist and a songwriter and motifs in your writing, because it's fun. Because that's the whole thing. It shouldn't be a case of like, oh man, what you guys talk about marketing. You know, it's like, no, that is the game. You know, like you're looking to make something that people are going to connect with, you know, and then something that you can either write something really powerful over or something really catchy. You know, so I definitely think that's the key. But where are you at then in terms of where you're at with your career? Like, what's your steps? Or are you thinking about what's your next steps? Or is there anything that you're thinking about where you could go next?
For sure. What's your
plan?
The plan. Well, so I released an EP early in 2016.
Was that your first EP?
Yeah, my first EP. Like, I got a mate that I came to London, was like, do I know anyone that knows anyone that produces? And he was a bass player. We made this record. It was cool. But it's like, it's when those things happen that you have huge learning curves. It's like, oh, cool, I just released it. I didn't have
self-release.
I just and like, but not even when I say self-release, it's like I just put it on the internet.
Oh, did you do it soft? So like, so soft, just like, as in just go, no release date, and work towards it.
So I was just like, okay, and I think that was a big learning curve with industry stuff, because then you're like, oh, maybe I should have got PR onto this, and then the big learning curve is that people aren't interested like 2 weeks after that you release something, like you're like you need to be on that stuff anyway. And something that I've been really thinking about is so nowadays I'm like gearing towards things like sync, and I want to like start writing. I'm wondering, actually, this would be a good question for you, is like, do you think that it is about creating real quality? Like, I know like marketing is important, but I'm always conflicted between going, okay, if I make music that is really good, will that just end up speaking for itself? And I know that there has to be marketing and there has to be stuff. Because I think it's naive to think that the music will. But at the same time, getting the industry's attention or sync deals, like I'm thinking sync because it's you can write for a brief. And then you're getting, as well as cash and the other source of income stuff. You're then getting the exposure that song in that ad or placement.
I don't know. I mean, I'd be careful about the term exposure off a sync. I think the monetary value is the main reason for syncs.
For sure.
Unless it's an ad, like the Apple ads used to be like the Apple ad would play and it almost have the name at the bottom sometimes. So, or you could Google. You know, I think it's a couple steps from exposure. You know,
Definitely.
It's like you might have something in a big advert, but then I also think there's a problem with being the person who has something in an advert. You know, there's a cred thing, or there's a kind of like that's not going to relate then if that record came out. I mean, you'd have to be like. There's a way to do it for sure.
Yeah.
But I think the first question there is, you know, does quality matter? And I would say anything I say about market and stuff, that's considering that the quality is already 100%.
Yeah.
You know, like there's no conversation unless it's like literally incredible.
Yeah.
If it's not like got something about it.
For
Like
sure.
people will moan about a big record that comes out, or I don't get that, or if it may be a pop record, you know, but most of the time there'll be something, a reason, right? And sometimes the reason is that it's that bad it's good. You know, some people can, like we say about like Neptunes, once you master music, you can figure out how to fuck with people. You can make something that's kind of bad, but it's good. Do you know what I mean? You can do something that's deliberately, like I think the best producer or best writer can underwrite.
Yeah.
Because they find ways to underwrite. They don't have to. It's like when you get like a heavy metal guitarist and he goes in and he tries to join a band like Foo Fighters, right? Or when you see sometimes things like that happen where musicians jump across, and it doesn't work because it's finding the spaces and songs have to speak and actually when you join a big project, you have to let the song breathe and it's not about you going crazy with riffs and solos. You know, like
it's
what are you doing,
the perspective is wrong for that.
And so you have to master the concepts and the theory of music kind of first, because then you understand where you're at on your, you know, kind of getting good. I always say that you should always think that you're not good.
Yeah.
I think you should always consider, I always consider that I'm shit, and it's only when someone says, oh my god, I heard blah 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 on that record you produced or something, or I heard this, like, oh my god, why, you know, and then you see the kind of like reaction from people. Their reaction is the only thing that kind of fills you with confidence inside that you know. So I quietly know that okay, I've got it down. I've got 17 year career. Okay, I'm doing some things right, you know. But I would always go, but tomorrow's another day. And something new changes, and if I'm sitting down and I don't get like bang bang like something magical, if I'm not looking for the magical thing, for the thing to get people going, oh that thing, that, oh god, you know, that's what you've got. It's always got to be, and even if it's just a really cool motif, if it's just a really nice opening lyric, like these things are all, I'm like a perfectionist when it comes to these things, and I like breaking down songs, and I think someone like Sia's someone really good. If you look at something like Chandelier, like that song is so important for songwriting. If you just look at what the beat does at the start of it, and then bang, she's in straight away, and she's got like, it's the sound, everything just kind of works to, it's kind of perfect. It's like right on where it has to be. Now, like, it's also quite dangerous, you know, like the attempt of what's happening in the first few seconds there. If you know what's actually happening, they're trying something really interesting, and then they're trying something crazy in the chorus, and it's constantly like the song keeps challenging you in such a beautiful way. It's still a pop song, but it's challenging. It's really challenging. Try sing harmonies to that, like okay, like she's the shit, you know, like so that's where I think people have to be very realistic about where they're at. You know? Yeah, definitely. And I think the winners are the ones who are going, even when they're getting good, and you know how things, you know, especially if you've been in front of people and you're singing, and you can feel what's right and what's bad, you know. But even when you're there, to kind of go, you know, I'm still need to find that thing.
That's
you know?
Yeah, it is really interesting. I also run an open mic night, and so I see every week I see people perform, and this kind of open mic night that I run, it doesn't have the sit-down audience that are there to hear new music. It's like a normal bar environment. So I'm used to playing in front of like a bar most Friday, Saturday nights, and like I understand what tunes get a rise. I understand what choruses are going to hit. I know what I should end with, what I should start with, blah blah blah. But I do find it really interesting. People's perceptions going into something, like an audience's perception of someone, does really infer whether they consider this person good or not. and I always find it really bizarre. Like, where I'll be like, this person is doing really fantastic on stage, but then they're not getting the audience doesn't give a shit.
Like, well, and these are two of the biggest points. So we're saying about quality, you know, and then you getting better, and what the thing that happens when you get better, you still should think I need to get better, you know, but you gain the confidence, and the confidence is the key thing. Especially, so I would say before anyone does, I wouldn't say before anyone does a record or anything, but I would say while people are doing it, like, drop records, release anything, you know, grow, let an audience know there's value in having a lot of stuff in the marketplace. You know, even if you soft released a whole bunch of shit, you know. I think it's obviously good if you're actually YouTubing and showing people as you're going. Great, that's perfect. But the journey of getting confident is such a beautiful one, and I think people aren't sharing that enough. You know, showing that you had a bad gig. Like, I've done so many gigs in 2012. I think I did like 458 a year. And it was about doing the quantity, right? We're going to die. Obviously, we're not going to have every gig is going to, you know, we're doing 5 gigs a day at some point. You know, your voice is screwed. Like, you're constantly, you know, hitting these levels, drunk most of the time. You're not going to hit pitches, right? You know,
that's it.
You know, so
but it's not a perfectly unblemished performance.
But if you're confident because you're doing that many shows and you've done this many shows before. And then you can control a crowd. You can get them to understand that this isn't about the song being tight. We're having fun now, so everyone get up, you know, and like you can control the crowd. I'd rather watch. We were at a show the other night, myself and Jamie, and there was this girl singing, and she had a great voice. She had genuinely, when I walked in, I was like, oh, you know, and I'm standing there, and I'm thinking like, I might card her. I might give her my card, you know, like. Lame, but
I might
because I heard like, wow, you know, she's got like something. I could sample that voice. I could work with that voice. You know, as a production head, I'm thinking, you know, like I could do something with that voice. You know, always looking for stuff like that. And then it got to the first kind of break. We walked in halfway through her playing, and then she spoke to the crowd. And I was like, Jamie, let's go get a beer.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? She was like,
thank you.
I was like,
it's the worst.
What was that? You know, and it's like, yeah, fair enough, she's a young musician, she's got a great voice, but you wouldn't, you know, you can't work with that. Like, they have to, you know, being a musician who's on stage, and this is why it's different from a songwriter, who, you know, if you're trying to be a songwriter, that's cool, like, it's still super hard, and it's still, like, you got to do a lot of stuff, you got to build up your game and your confidence to even approach and, you know, not be a dick selling shit to really good artists. You have to know, you know, that your stuff is good. But to be someone on stage, you have to have the ability to control a crowd. Crowd management, crowd reading, and not care too much about the performance. It's that whole thing. Same with the producers. Like, you get so good that you can be bad. You play so long on stage that you can play bad and have a great gig.
And still do a great show. I would say that, like, that's where the cover gigs and all of that, that experience of performing like 3 to 5 times a week I would say is really important for people to get that experience. Like, it's hard because if you're doing covers, you're not you potentially not focusing enough on the original stuff. But at the same time, something that I genuinely see is that stuff that you're talking about, where people go onto stage and they perform their original material, which might be amazing, but then if they have nothing, they have no way of guiding the crowd.
Falls flat.
It falls flat. It's really upsetting because like, every musician wants people to just see their inner light. And it, like, while that's fantastic, it's just not honest. Like, I know people that are terrible musicians but amazing performers, and it doesn't make.
Bruno Mars said something that like, because he came to London and he did the cover scene. You know, before
I didn't know
before
that.
He went back and got signed. He was doing like Michael Jackson covers and just rock covers, Nirvana. There's videos of him on YouTube doing like Nirvana. And
same as Neo. Neo was just wedding scene, all that kind of stuff.
And you know, those are tough. Sometimes they're tough because you're hired to make them. You know, in a small environment, it's not a big thing. You know, it's hard to get yourself up, and a great musician is someone who's like, fuck that, hard to get. I love it. You know, like, and you genuinely, I think it was Bruno Mars that said that he learned how to be, you know, a real, because he'd come from like a really trained and like singing in all these different groups and stuff. But it was like when you throw yourself in the deep end like that, you're not going to get that experience too often. You know, to throw yourself in and be like, look, I'm going to eat shit for quite a while here.
Yeah.
You know, definitely. And I think now, if young people are coming up, like, oh god, I think there's so many cool ways to do it now. Like, I would be going and doing the cover scene and filming every single gig, you know, and like getting the bigger and better gigs and just film the progression of becoming, and then at the end of maybe doing like 150 or whatever, then drop one of your own songs. Like, it would do well because you've just built an epic following because you're doing that all the time. Also, all the people who are seeing you, the cover things, you could be getting them on your mailing list.
For sure.
You know, it's a really, there's a lot of, you know, work there that could be done, especially if I was a young singer coming up now, and I was like, yeah, you know, I'm going to busk, and I'm going to go and do the cover stuff, and I'm just going to go and perform because I love doing it. I would almost make a duo act. You be the singer, but get a camera person on board. Someone to film it all. I think most bands that come up now, if the bands are starting a band, I think they should start, whoever, if they've got four, you're five. You get a videographer. I think there should be a fifth. You should always have that extra member because now the marketplaces are online, and even if you don't want to be a performer like that, that could be, especially if you're just writing songs or you're remixing people's songs, and YouTube and DTube and these places are super powerful platforms. And if you focused on them, they could. I think they're like the key strategies. And then, you know, like, I think if you're for the songwriting one, I think the other thing that you should definitely be doing and loving doing is hanging out with other musicians and going to the right parties and you know, socializing is the easy part, right? It should be the fun part, you know?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and I think that's like miffed in itself is something that, so I do a lot of solo gigs, like solo cover gigs, solo original gigs and all that kind of stuff, and I found from coming from a background of playing with musicians and like that camaraderie and the community that you're pushing each other and helping each other out, coming here and being a soloist, primarily because it's the best cash, it's kind of like I reached out because I met Carrie Ann and at a gig once, and then we bumped into each other at a workshop somewhere, and then Daisy was there as well, and then she was like, come along and hang out, and I was like, it's nice, like it'd be really nice to join.
And go to events and stuff and grow it. You know, it's I think that's the kind of key. But what's your next step then? So you did that EP. So are you thinking about recording again, or? Yeah,
definitely. I've just been in the studio. I was in the studio last 2 weeks ago on Monday. So I've got like kind of another EP. I think at the moment though, like we were saying, I really want to build. One thing that I struggle with is branding because
you got a super complicated surname.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like no one can spell anything.
Change surname.
But yeah, branding. Like, who am I? Like, no one likes being labeled, but it's harder to live in a label where you're really addicted to every genre and you like to write for multiple things.
That's cool.
Like,
I mean, look at 21 Pilots. Like, they seem to like
boss.
They seem to not give a fuck about structure or genre. And I was doing what they do now. I was doing that like in 2001, 2002, and I was constantly getting people like engineers, and then when we started obviously getting you know, at a major label, people going like, no, you can't do that.
Yeah,
like, you
what
can't
are you
change
doing?
the song there. Like, you can't, you know, like, and now you see kids like this come through and being like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, like, look.
What do you know?
Yeah.
You know, the kids out there are listening to everything. Like, so I think have it, like, the worst case scenario, I think, for me, is someone who likes such variety, like you just said there, like liking so many different genres, is that an EP comes out. Now, you want to hear a signature sound, but that's in confidence as well, because the person's voice should kind of be their signature, as well as maybe some motifs and their style of writing. They will have their signatures, but I'd prefer if the songs weren't the same genre. I prefer mid like genre jumping mid song.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's great. It's just so funny because I think that the advice that you get, like, all of us in MIFT.
Songwriting coaches would shit on that idea.
Well, yeah, and even industry people
what
like
the
that.
Fuck do they know?
Like, I'm just like, oh, it's so frustrating when you get so many industry advice, and it's always like, it's always really constricting. It's always like, oh, you don't fit this. If you're not fitting this, you're doing something wrong. And it's like, but all the people that I love didn't fit into these things.
No one who ever came through and like really broke the world fitted or gave a fuck about fitting. The whole point the thing broke was that it didn't fit. You know, you want to stand out. If everyone's going this way, you go that way. Like, you have to stand out. It's the easiest way to stand out, especially with social media now. You know, like, I think mixing things, I think people are clogged onto that. But I think with the thing of like what the industry says, like, from my experience, because of what I was doing was kind of undercover, and I was conning the industry, and I was doing something very specific, but I was able to fuck around and see, you know, you get like these A&Rs and rec execs, they, at parties especially, and in bars, and we socialize with them, they're always, you will get a lot of people who are serious musicologists, you know, a lot of people are, but you can always tell like the geek guy in the A&R department. But most of them are not. Most of them are just people who have a job in an office. They're working an office job. And the amount of times that someone would come up to me and be like, oh, I can hear some riffs in your music. Are you a fan of like metal and stuff like that? But like, like, I'm big metal fan. I'm a big metal fan. And then I'll pick out like an album. And I'd be like, oh, cool. So you like that? You like that Jagged Edge Metallica record? And they'd be like, yeah. Though that was like, that was their best. That was one of their best. Like, oh no, shit, no, Metallica didn't have a record called Jagged Edge. Just to expose them, you know. And the amount of times that I would do that, I would just I'd pick someone else's name or an act, and I'd put it with a band and say like, oh, did you hear that record? And they'd be like, yeah, it's great, isn't it? And it's like.
It's like,
you know, you can just expose them straight away.
It's really painful, and then they're the conversations that you have on the, like I'm having on the regular with. It's like those conversations where you're just talking to people that are like, oh, so when's your Idol audition? Or when are you going on the X Factors? When are you?
It's like, when are you gonna suck a dick?
Yeah, when are you?
That's when.
It's like if you like, a lot of people come up to me and they're like, I love what you're doing. Like, I love.
I'm just gonna go and jump on a show that's had falling ratings by the millions every year for the last 6 years. Sure. That's sound advice.
Thank you. Thank you. Like, you're really helping me in my career. How about you just like buy a CD or follow? Like it's really funny. You just, wish those people.
The first time go fuck yourself. What number are we on there, Jamie? 52 minutes. Oh, good. The first time I ever I was in a studio and an A&R was coming in. No, we got signed because we were doing this deliberately, but we were really, really shocking, really hardcore shocking. And they signed us, and then immediately didn't want to put the record out because it was too shocking. Like, you just signed that because it was the Purple Cow, because it was standout and it was crazy, and we were kind of sexy.
Super.
But immediately they were like, all right, cool, we got to change some of these records, make it so radio friendly, you know. And then we're in the studio, and one of the A&Rs would be like, oh, what's that thing there? And I'm sitting at the desk, and she's like, what's that thing there? It's there it is, and there it is, and I was like, the snare.
Fantastic.
Like, what if you we just turn that down a bit? And then I go to turn it down, and I turn it up, and she's like, so much better. And that point right there was when I stopped ever listening to anything from anyone in the industry, especially when you go to like these seminars, or you go to like Bylarm or Media. Bylarm's actually quite good, but there's loads of seminars and the one in Brighton. All these seminars where they get a whole bunch of people, and it's like a business, right? They draw all these people to this event to get industry people to talk about what they need to do, right? And I've spoken at them, and what I like to do if I ever speak at them is I always ask the crowd, like, are you guys sick of hearing bullshit? Like, you've been bullshitted the whole day. It's crazy what people say. Like, oh, you should do this, and you should make a little demo and get like all the. It's like the books I'd read a couple of books before I came down to London because I wanted a little bit of insight, and there really wasn't that much of an internet back then.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
dated the fuck out of myself. But it's like things they were saying are still kind of what people say now, which is crazy because the industry is so different. But they would say things like make a demo, or like make a press kit, make an APK, or do this, do that, you know. And it's just like, man, like, what the why are you wasting people's time saying this? Like, you know that it's illegal to cold send demos. Why is there a space on any record company's website that says submit demo? They know it's illegal.
I see. I didn't know that at all. I didn't know that they're cold calling.
Not cold calling, but if you
like sending.
They can't open it. Most record companies have like a demo bin. Like I remember being in one of the offices. I think it was Polydor actually, and we were about to tell them to go fuck themselves. But they had this massive bin, and they had a big basketball thing, and that's what they would do. They'd be like, spend their time throwing some kid's dreams around. You know, and for me, it was like, fuck these people, man. This is horrible. Like, someone read a book or went online and took a course or studied at uni, and they got told to spend this time making these
demos
press kits rather than going out. And they know that they're not going to touch anyone there. They're going to send some people, like a junior or a street team member, to gigs to get the word, or they're going to wait now, especially they're going to wait until someone's popping on social media, then they're going to go for it. You know, so it's like, if you know that now, it's like, just build your shit yourself. And when they come the first time, tell them to fuck off. When they come the second time, tell them to fuck off. Very different. Now that's for the record business, because record business is dead. Publishing's still got something. Publishing's still there. It's still very dirty, but there's a few better people in it. And I think if you are a singer-songwriter and you do build your repertoire up, repertoire is everything, right? You know, if you have a catalogue of 30 songs, obviously, if you're going with 10 songs, like I wrote this song for blah blah blah, you know, like, get the fuck out of here. Even if you're a lawyer, you're not going to get the management or the lawyer or anyone until you have a repertoire of. You know, if you got 100 songs,
100 songs would be good.
But you want them to be maybe 10 songs for Sia, or Sia doesn't need any songs, but 10 songs for this artist, 10 songs for this artist, or a CD that's like songs that can be translated into or songs for this. You know what I mean? Like, if you're a singer-songwriter or just someone who's writing for syncs or whatever, then that's all you should really do. And while you're kind of getting a little bits of the cash coming in while you're doing the other stuff, you kind of like starts to add up and you get over that first crux. But I think I wouldn't ignore the YouTube game. I wouldn't ignore DTube and YouTube for getting your stuff out. For even pitching that you have 10 songs. You know, if you're singing, so if you're the camera and you're displaying the songs regularly, and you go, look, I've got this batch of 10 songs. These are for this singer, and this singer. So if you fall into that category, hit me up. You know, and then because who knows who might you could sell the. You know, you could do one-off licenses. I think that's a really good way to make decent money. And then that might be groups or artists. There might be someone in that pile who just is the next thing, you know. So that's a way to do it. But also, while you're doing that, I think building up the contacts, becoming more friendly and knowledgeable, and knowing who the execs are, or who the cool producers are. And when I say execs, I don't mean rec exec, I mean exec producer. You know, finding them, I think that's like, and then you got your bases covered, and I think like then it's a matter of time. You're getting better, like you're doing everything you can, like you're making money, you're out developing as an artist on stage as well. Never stop that game, you know. I think the live, all the roads lead to live. Of course, there's a. I think you don't know how a song is really like, or how a song translates from a singer-songwriter perspective until you've played it, until you get like a vibe of. Like, I wouldn't record a record until I've played a whole bunch of it live. Like, to know what's sticking or what's like clunking or what's not. You know, like people sometimes they write records, and then you have to change the key because like, oh, I got to sing this lower because like I know this part's coming up. I'm not gonna have the breath. It's like, don't write anything. You know,
versus chorus come straight together.
It's like, don't write a song and then even if you're silent to someone that needs then you to explain, like, well, live you might have to change no, you can't change any at that point. It has to be sung exactly the way, you know what I mean? So there's all these things where it's like, there's some complications and there's some specific things that need to be worked on, like for young singing songwriters coming up. But
for sure,
what if a lot of the time as well, it's a case of like, if you're doing those things, like you're most likely gonna get at the right place.
Would you say that, like you were saying, like when I said I've been here for 3 years, you're like, wow, the game has changed from 5-6 years ago. And all that old advice that we're getting that's constantly out there. What would you say is like the most current, up-to-date thing on like demos is it like, because YouTube is great. Obviously, it's good to have
8% of the market.
Yeah, it's crazy because that is like, there's so many people on YouTube now as well.
Yeah. So you got to manage expectation.
Yeah.
Like I think if you're consistent, you'll beat the algorithm. The algorithm will work for you. If you're putting up one thing, like, so if I'm someone who's looking and I'm wanting to find singer-songwriters, you know, because there's a lot of people out there. I do that, you know. I actually like the singer-songwriter. I'm a massive fan of female singer-songwriters, like quirky ones, you know, like Regina Spektor's and people like that. So I love finding that, and they give me a load of ideas. Not the style of music I make, but I like getting ideas from that, because why would I? You know? So I'm constantly looking for that. But if I go to find someone on YouTube, and I see they've got one video, and I kind of like this video, I'm not subscribing, and I'm not really going to give my mental time to them. And if I go to their channel and they don't have much else there, I'm probably not going back, because I think they're not hard working enough, or you know, just the young kid's mind as well. Like, you have to in some way kind of understand that what the kids are thinking, like, and like I think if you've got like a number of videos and you're ending your videos with like, cool, see you in 2 days or 3 days, or you know, they know that there's something coming, or you've got like, you know, Freestyle Fridays, or like or Fun Thursday, or you know, if you've got like something that's going to drop and you know that it's coming, you know. So if a kid finds your stuff and you're on part 60 or day 60, or you know, whatever, 60, number 60,
you're on a journey,
you know, they're going to go, oh shit, I've got 60 to go crash course, you know, and go like catch up on it all, you know. It's like that whole Netflix generation. So I'd say for me now, that's the most important thing now is I'd say the most important piece of advice I've heard in the last few years is be vulnerable, and it's okay to be vulnerable, is be okay with being bad and having flaws in your game. We always have, we're always going to have. You're great if you recognize them. You're ignorant and you're not a phenomenal artist if you ignore them, you know. So those are the things that I think when I hear that, I'm like, you know, fuck, I can still get better. I want to get better, you know. There's so much, like, I haven't figured out this yet, you know? And so like those are the things. But as in from tactical strategy and advice, I'd say for sure YouTube is the power play for a while. It's most likely going to change very soon. I think platforms are coming out. We don't want
that's an amazingly like
it's
close.
It's like the record industry trying to shut us down. It's like bullshit.
Guy in a suit. What do you think of SoundCloud then?
I think SoundCloud's alright. I don't use it. I mean, again, good if consistency. If you're going to use it for here and there, nah. You know, I don't like platforms where you give away the rights of the song over. I'm very cautious of them there. I don't like streaming platforms really at all. I think right now, it can be done fair enough, but right now it's not. And I think SoundCloud are problematic for me, business-wise, structure-wise, how the rights. You know, I don't know if the algorithm is strong enough compared to something like YouTube, but if SoundCloud could make, I could feel confident in turning SoundCloud into something special. If, you know, there's certain things have to change before I'd start to use that. But again, if I was using it, it would just be consistency.
For sure.
You know, it would be super if you could upload on YouTube and SoundCloud in the same day. And go for 2 months and see what the beats are, you know, see what the hits are, and see what numbers you're getting. I think that's a positive thing.
When you're uploading music to YouTube, are you attaching videos to these things? Like, as a producer, you're probably obviously not like, are you creating a video of yourself like tapping pads, or are you creating like just a backdrop, or are you creating like an interesting thing?
I think you have to have
well?
video. I think you have to be seen. I think you have to like podcasts like this would lose so much if it couldn't see our faces. You know, like I think that's where it's at right now. I just don't think people, when you say that, I think people get stuck because it sounds like a lot to do. But don't edit. We're not going to edit this. Like, just don't edit. Just shoot and get up. You know, we might do a couple of things, but like, get it up and get it out and go. You know, and don't be afraid to not be fully there yet. Especially if you start something and you have like you're doing a 50-day run, like we're going to do 50 days, and you maybe start the video and it's like you count backwards, 49 to go, 48 to
that's
go,
a good idea,
things like that, because you basically want people to work towards an end with you. You're the hero in a movie, and at the end you're either going to win or lose. Like that's really the key thing. And my advice that I give to everyone that I think is that to realize that you are the protagonist in your own movie. Like you might be stuck, you might be full of fear, but how does every movie end? The protagonist faces the fear, faces the giant, faces the monster, and they don't maybe come out like with millions, but they come out starting a new story when now they're in charge. And I think if you did like 50 and you kind of realize something by the end of it, maybe even taking comments from people and saying like, what do you think I should do next? Like, I think the person who that's really scary, right?
Oh yeah, well yeah,
because YouTube is full of haters and shit talkers, but I think when you make it easy for them, they go away. When you're like saying, hey, I know a lot of people out there just you're gonna say whatever, but the cool people like you who's watching, like, tell me what you think. Like, what do you think I should what do you think I should sing next? What do you think?
The engagement. Yeah,
that's a way I think that is really cool. We should continue this. We'll end this one here, but we should talk again more. That was really cool.
It was a pleasure.
Catch us, Music Hacker. What's your online or your?
Nick D Gregorio, NickDgregorio.
Nice. Yeah. All right, Nick. Me and Nick will see you later. Peace.